Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather. It is a little after 6 p.m. on this Wednesday, April 9th, 2014, and this is your latest long-range video update. Really talking about some big changes, especially next week, but we have some very pleasant changes in store for us before we get there. Take a look at current satellite overlaid with temperatures and, just beautiful clear skies for us this evening. Partly cloudy skies out to the east of us, but crystal clear here. You couldn't ask for a better night right now. We topped out at 63 here around the area today. We're on our way down into the lower 60s. I think we go down to around 45 or so tonight. Not a bad night area wide for us. Certainly not as cold as last night. And we will take it even warmer tomorrow, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Today's update is sponsored by Metal Magic in Washington. You can contact Chad at 698-8555 for all of your paintless dent repair needs. They are PDR Nation certified, which means that you know that you're going to be getting some quality work done. So right there, name and number down and tell them Southern Indiana Weather sent you. All right, let's talk about some big changes also coming up our way. It's pretty clear right now. Beautiful skies out there. It's going to be another gorgeous day tomorrow, really. Temperatures are going to soar into the 70s tomorrow. Then after that, we've got a little bit more rain that they're going to be dealing with. Let's take a look at future radar and we'll time that out. I know we don't need rain, do we? But I've got some real doozies of a rain on the way, which we'll talk about here in a second. Looks like we stay pretty well clear tomorrow. Here we are by about noon on Friday. Future radar wants to indicate the slightest hint of a stray shower moving into the area. I'm not completely sold on that idea yet, but we'll see how that goes. It looks like later in the evening before anything would strike us. It looks like the day will be pretty nice. By the time you get to 8 p.m., it looks like we've got a little bit of a line of some showers and maybe some embedded thunderstorms potentially, and then moving into the overnight hours on Friday. Then, as we get into the morning hours on Friday, you notice we start to clear out just a little bit, but you've got more moving in from the west over us. And then it's pretty much gone. This is, by the way, this little thin line that you see is in response to a cold front that's going to be dragging through the area. And you see that it's not an aggressive chance. It's pretty much a thin line overall. And then as it moves through, you have a secondary disturbance that moves through. But again, not aggressive. Maybe pick up another 2 to 4 tenths of an inch, maybe up to a half an inch of rain out of this. But certainly not anything overly aggressive on that. The bigger rain chance will come next week, all right? If we, in fact, next week is one of those times that is very much in question, and it's going to be all driven by a low pressure that's going to be moving up into our area, and specifically on Sunday night into Monday morning, and as it exits and pulls a cold front behind it, we're going to be talking about some much cooler temperatures to come along with it. Let me show you the models. I hinted at this last night that we could be potentially looking at some days in the 30s. It does look like it's going to be confined mostly to a 1 or 2 day event at this point, so we're looking for, definitely, I would still classify this as a major cool down, as you're going to see here in a second, but not a long-term major cool down. That's the thing to be thankful about with this. It's the same stinking pattern that we've had really for the past for the past 5 or 6 months that we have been stuck in this rut, so to speak, where it's up and down, up and down, up and down, and sometimes we get into a major cool down where we're 20 and 30 degrees below normal for our high. That looks like what we're going to see on Monday. Let me go through the models here and I will show you that. All right, here we are on Monday morning at about 8 a.m. You can see the cold front very clearly behind us here. Notice here we're sitting near 60 degrees in southwest Indiana, and we're into the low 40s and even into the low 30s out here in Illinois. Yes, that is a very steep gradient, very sharp cold front. As I put this into motion, here we are at 8 a.m., here we are at 2 p.m., and watch how fast that cold front has moved through us, and now we are all in the mid 40s and to the low 40s even up here in this portion of Indiana. Then watch how quickly this overtakes the area. By the time nightfall comes, most of us will probably be hanging out near the 40 mark, if not even already into the upper 30s by that time. And then certainly by the time you wake up on Tuesday morning, we're all going down to a low temperature pretty close to freezing, or even maybe even the upper 20s, hints of around 30 to 32 degrees for as what the GFS is saying at this point. So cold. If that verifies, make sure you bring any plants that you possibly can indoors, because this is not going to be a good thing. Then after that, what can we expect? Well, not bad. By the time 2 p.m. strikes on Tuesday, we're up to around 50 to 52 degrees area-wide. So, we rebound a little bit Looks like we got one really cold day to deal with. Then we rebound a little bit, and then by the time Wednesday morning comes, we've still got a very cold morning still, where we're going down into the low to mid 30s after that. So that is what the GFS says. Let me show you what the Canadian says, just to show you that all of the models are indicating this now. Here we'll start at about 8 a.m. on Monday. Notice the cold front's a little faster dragging through with this model, and so we are starting out near 60 here in the Huntingburg area, around 54 in Evansville, but we're already down to the mid 40s here in Vincennes. So again, that's a very steep cold front and a very steep temperature gradient. As you go in through the afternoon, notice how quickly again these temperatures fall. By the time Tuesday morning comes, again 30 to 32, 33 degrees area wide for our lows. But then we warm up to near the 50-degree mark or so for a high temperature on Tuesday. So we do moderate a little bit before we go back down into the very low 30s. In fact, upper 20s possible, indicated by the Canadian model by the time you wake up on Wednesday morning. So we're talking about some very cold air with this as well. One day of really cold high temperatures where temperatures fall through the day, but then we moderate back up a little bit. Euro is also now in agreement. It is nice to see such good model agreement for once. The Euro is a lot slower here the time we go by 8 a.m. on Monday morning. You notice that cold front is still just barely entering to Indiana by this point, but watch how fast it moves through. Very fast mover on this. By 2 in the afternoon, it is all through us as well. Maybe a little bit warmer and slower to fall with this particular model, but we still do. And nonetheless, by the time you reach 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning, your overnight low temperatures, you're looking at maybe the mid 30s instead of the low 30s with this particular model. But the reality is you're going to be flirting with the freezing mark on any of these models the way things are looking. So cold, cold, and then we warm up to about the low 50 marks. This takes us to about 50 to 55 in that range for our high temperatures on Tuesday, before plummeting us down into the near freezing mark again on Wednesday. So, and then, by the way, if you want to know what it's going to do after that, it does look like it warms up just a little bit by the time you hit Thursday, and we're warming back up into the 60s for a high. So that's nice. A very short-lived cool down, but a very sharp cool down. Our normal high is 66 degrees. So if you're talking about going from around our normal high temperature whenever you start out on Monday morning, and then falling down into the upper 30s by the time dark falls, that's a steep gradient. We're going to be falling down into the 40s through the day, and through the 50s, and then even through the 40s. So cold. All right, let's talk about rain though. What can we expect with this? Different models give us different things. Let me show you what the GFS. I mentioned this yesterday as well, that the GFS even wanted to hint at the possibility of snow. I said I was skeptical. Well, here's the reason why. It's April. It's very hard to get snow at this point in time. Now, yesterday the low was tracking in a fashion sort of like this up the Appalachian spine, and I said, yes, that's a very favorable track for snow for us. Now look where the low is. So, this is a 150, 200 miles of a difference in the track of that low, and look what the difference makes. It looks like under this particular model, northern Illinois, even into Michigan, could get slammed with some of the snow. But as this moves in, here's 8 a.m. on Monday morning. We're still plenty warm enough by then. Here we come by 2 p.m. Our winds shift down from the north, and we're certainly starting to cool down. But some snow for northern Indiana, possibly even some accumulating snow potentially here for northern Indiana and into Michigan. And then as this moves out, here we are by Tuesday evening late. We're still above the freezing line. We don't go below the freezing line here in the southern part of the state until you hit maybe about 2 a.m. or so on Tuesday morning. And by that time, the precipitation is long gone. So at this point, it doesn't look like we're going to get any snow out of this. But the very fact that you have snow in the area, even in the state with this system, and it is mid-April, that indicates the kind of system that we're dealing with. We're talking about a pretty major cool down. But for us, it does look like it's going to be an all-rain event from the vantage point that I see at this point. If anything changes, we'll certainly let you know, but that's the way the models show. I don't want to hype this up, and I know I get every once in a while folks will say, you're showing these maps and you're hyping it up. No, I'm really not. I'm just being honest with you and showing you what the models say, and you can make your decision. And if folks want to call that hype, you can call it hype all you want. I'm not out there hyping this up and saying, oh, this is going to happen and that's all I'm talking about. No, I'm just showing you what the data says, and you can make an objective opinion on it how you want off of that. But I'm also being honest enough to tell you that this is what it could happen, but the odds are against it. So I would rather you know well in advance of what's going on, and if you want to call that hype, you can call that hype, but I roll around here. Not a lot of folks in meteorology do the long range stuff, but I like doing that. My motto is real simple. I want to know what's going to go on, so you probably do too. So why don't I just say it? Pretty simple. Now, along with that, if I were going to hype anything up, which I'm not, it would be the rain because I'm doubtful on the snow. But it looks like it could be some serious rain. Let me show you what I mean. Latest GFS from this morning is not aggressive with rain by next week. It had been a little bit more aggressive with rain. It's not now. It's only saying maybe a half inch or so, if even that for us at best. One model run prior to this, and it was rain-mageddon around here. You're talking 3 or 4 inches upstate around, and then around here for us, an inch to 2 inches. But let me show you what the Canadian and the Euro say. Okay, first the Euro model, again, 1 to 2 inches of rain area wide. Look at the Canadian though. And the Canadian is saying essentially 3 to 4 inches of rain area wide for us with this rain that would be moving in on Monday. And what would that do for us? Well, let's think about what our rivers are at around here. So we're taking a look here at the Advanced Hydrologic Prediction Service of the National Weather Service. Basically what the dots on the map here for are the river stages. Gauges to say how are they flooding. Green is good, no flooding occurring. And you get to the other colors, you get bad. All right, take a look here what the East Fork White River is doing with the reds. That's moderate flooding. Major flooding going down here where the Patoka River at Princeton is. Even some moderate flooding over here by the Wabash River down in Vincennes. Now, yes, you've got some no flooding occurring right here, according to this, on the Patoka River near Jasper, even the French Lick Creek. We could look up here around the Lick Creek. We could take a look up here around the Lost River as well. No flooding occurring on these, which is a nice thing. But you do have some pretty major flooding and moderate flooding going on around our more major rivers. Now, if you were to add 3 to 4 inches onto this, what do you think that would do? You see why I would be a little bit concerned here. Besides the fact that our fields are just extremely wet right now, and poor farmers are going to have a very hard time getting out, and getting out in to plant their crops unless they want to mud them in, which is not good. 3 to 4 inches of rain could cause some very serious flooding issues for us once again. So this is something that we're going to have to watch very closely over the coming days. I hope it backs it off like the GFS has and takes us down to where we're only going to get maybe a half inch or so out of this or less. That would be ideal, but that's not the way I see it at this point. This is one model run of the GFS. Some of the other runs today have had a lot heavier rain for us, and with the Canadian and the Euro citing on the heavy rain side. I'm not sold on 3 to 4 inches, but if you take 1 to 2 inches this way, the Euro saying at least good 2 inches out of this, and 3 to 4 inches maybe out of the Canadian, I would say a good model average of 2 to 3 inches is certainly probable with this at this point. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, folks, because again, that type of rain could cause some very serious issues around here along with our flooding. So we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully it will change. And then beyond that, I don't have the graphics pulled up here for you because I knew I would be running out of time with all that I've had to cover. But going into the extended period beyond this, I also see a very rainy period setting up. So yes, we've got another rain chance on Friday, and we've got another rain chance on Sunday night into Monday. Beyond that, past what our 7-day outlook would be, we've even got plenty more rain chances after that. It just does not look like this rainy pattern wants to let up at all. Climate Prediction Center is agreeing with me on that and saying that we're going to be in an above normal pattern over the next 2 to 3 weeks for precipitation. And the way the models are showing, that's certainly what it looks like at this point. All right, folks, let's go to southernindianaweather.com and we'll take a look at your Eubelor and Sun 7-day forecast. Again, mid-40s for a low tonight under mostly clear skies. Not bad. Very warm tomorrow. I'm forecasting 72. Mostly sunny early, turning partly cloudy a little bit later in the day. Showers and thunderstorms are likely on Thursday night, but I think the daytime will be certainly good. It's probably after 8 p.m. the way future radar looks right now before we start to get anything. Even warm again on Friday. Cloudy with showers and thunderstorms likely up to about 69 for your high. Saturday looks like the pick of the weekend. Absolutely gorgeous day with temperatures in the low 70s if you're headed to Thunder or Louisville on Saturday afternoon. I think we shouldn't have too much of any problems with that. In fact, I'm not even sure that we're going to see a shower chance. I've put a 10% chance in for Saturday night. I think that chance would come after midnight, and I think thunder over Louisville will have no problems at this point if you're headed to see the fireworks display. But with south winds, maybe even potentially a little bit stronger than this, the way some of the models want to indicate, probably the Louisville side of the river would be better viewing this year because the smoke will be blown onto the Indiana side of the river. So with those wind directions, just keep that in mind if you are headed out. All right.